I got the Gucci. GM friends, welcome to another episode of Music NFT Radio Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. My good friend Fifi is here on Music NFT Radio. Let's get it. Fifi is one of my OG supporters and really collaborators in this space. We've been working together for probably over a year now, and Fifi has been absolutely crushing it in the NFT space. She's one of the OG music NFT artists to make a move in this space. And she's also been one of my OG supporters. She's a VIP collector, and Music NFT Radio wouldn't be where it is today without Fifi's support. She's been in here all the time. She's done over 1,000 hours on radio by now, and it's been amazing. So Fifi, I'm so happy to have your support, and you've been absolutely crushing it in Web3. And that's why I wanted to title today's podcast Web2 to Web3. Because you are really an example of the blueprint of how to go Web2 to Web3 and how to integrate all those things together. So I'm really excited to have you here today. Fifi, welcome to Music NFT Radio Podcast.
Thank you, Dyl. Thank you for having me. I still remember in the first meeting, on a group in Pixel Lord, I remember it's our group chat. And we were talking about music, and then you chimed in, and then we just like really hit it off. And I was like, I'm going to follow you everywhere. And then you said, it's like, at the time, because it was such an infant stage of music NFT. And then you said it's like, you were shouting on a stadium stage where I was like the top supporter, and then just like calling back, yeah, let's go. So yeah, that's the beginning. And then the rest is history. So thank you so much. And it's my great pleasure. And you're always an inspiration to all of us. Your work ethic, and also just to keep inventing, keep reinventing, and then being very creative. And that's what NFT is about. Half of it for me is creative, the creative freedom, the creative side of things. You actually do music, but the other side is actually creating the idea of within how do you almost like a game, like design a game within NFT, using the power of NFT to play chess, with and then also contribute, like add value to not just the community but in every way, because it's a financial thing. I mean, is that a product, or how do I say it? There's just so many things you can do with it. And for me, coming from Web2 to Web3, I'm very kind of like I learn as I go. I came here to learn, and if I can do something with that little information I learn, I'm gonna use it. So I apply and learn, apply, and then that's where I am now. It's been nearly a year, and going forward, very very soon, I'm going to focus on, like, I flipped the script. Like now is Web3 leading Web2 for me, music career wise. But there's always, it's like a dance depending on the market, where the market is. So before, when I first came in, it was Web2, but then with a tiny, like a fairy dust of a thing, like the topping of Web3, and then that expands into something bigger. So it's a very fluid mixture of how I combine Web2 and Web3 together.
Yeah, for sure. And you've done such an amazing job of combining Web2 and Web3, being an artist who was focused on onboarding your audience into the Web3 community. And that's something you've spent so much time doing, a lot of it with me on our weekly Sunday mastermind space, where we teach everyone about music NFTs, right? From zero to making your first music NFT. And so we spend so much time helping others, bringing others into the community. But today is about you. I really want to hear more about your story, your journey. And so that's the point of this podcast today, is to really talk about Fifi Rong, the artist, your background, a little bit of your story getting into music, and then how you ended up in Web3, and sort of how you navigated that environment too, because you did an excellent job of being one of those pioneering artists who's moving into the space. So I do want to start with the beginning of your story, and I also want to remind everyone who's listening on YouTube to like and subscribe. If you're in the room, make sure to retweet the room for Fifi. Let's get some more people in here and let them hear this incredible story. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to download and like the podcast. So, Fifi, let's hear a bit more about your beginnings and getting started, when you're becoming an artist and before Web3, when you're just
Yeah.
thinking, you're a girl just wanting to be an artist.
Oh, that's a go back really long, but I just want to, before I start talking about my story, I would definitely say, that educational space, the key person is NiftySax, of course. That's his account just next to us right now. Because I came to this space to learn, and then thanks to NiftySax, I came here, and he was very generously sharing his information. So I was like, oh, hold on a second. Why are you just telling me? More people should learn this information. So so he said, oh, let's do a space like that. And then that's when we started. And then you joined immediately. And so, the three of us, like a trilogy. So that's kind of like, because at the beginning, I really didn't know what an airdrop was. So I can't really take credit for, coming here to onboard people, because he's been here. I mean, you guys have been here for quite a while. So I literally just came here to learn, and I bring a whole bunch of Web2 people. I try my best shouting about it. And as soon as I learn, and then I can teach very, very soon that like a 8-year-old can teach a 6-year-old kind of thing. So yeah, so that's the situation. And I can go
You're
back.
so right.
Yeah.
And shout out to Nifty. I'm going to pull him up on the screen right now so anyone watching the video can see his profile here. Make sure you follow NiftySax. He's an OG. Me, Nifty, and Fifi have been doing this space every Sunday for now almost a year. I think it's like week 43 this coming Sunday. So make sure you tap in on that. It's called Music NFT Mastermind. It'll also be out as a podcast and on YouTube as well. So if you want to hear more from me, Nifty, and Fifi about onboarding in the space and getting involved, then definitely check that out. So yeah, thanks for that, Fifi. Definitely got to give credit to Nifty for helping thousands of artists get into this space. So yeah, definitely. Let's get into your story, and we'll talk
Awesome.
about Nifty's story another time too. I'll definitely have him on ASAP as well.
Yeah, it's a busy man to for NYC, because this is a critical time for a lot of people. I mean, like, fortunately, unfortunately, that I'm in London, and this year I'm not going. So yeah, that's why I'm here. I have my piece to talk about it properly. So yeah, let's go back to how I started music. Um, so I wasn't gonna set off towards the music direction. There's some police car on the background. Apologies. Um, yeah, I wasn't gonna go for the music because I grew up being told that I wasn't good enough. I didn't have the look. I didn't have the voice. So I was basically from a collectivism, kind of like a society, where I just wasn't supposed to do it. Although in my heart, I was very much know that I want music. But then, you're told when you're young, everybody wants to be a footballer, everybody wants to be rich and famous and rocket scientist, but you don't get to. There's like kind of, you need to have the talent, have and then lots of other factors too. So I was kind of just turned down from this direction. So I was going through between like 14 to about 24. I was going towards a different direction, which was business, economics and sociology and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it was a good thing, because I think, my parents wanted me to do that as the solid background. And now this is like, for me, is a very great environment in Web3, because you do need the entrepreneurial flair, at least, to actually run something, have the confidence to run something. So I didn't make music when I was because that 10 years of me going off the rail, away from my dreams, I was extremely upset. I was just not happy for one day. I was just like a kind of sleepy through the whole thing, and look kind of like looking for dysfunctional dysfunctional relationships to get my mind off what I really wanted, because it's painful to watch other people doing music, to watch other people on stage. It was painful when you're against your truth, when you know something in your heart, and there's like this dissonance within me. So I mean, when I finally like kind of like I grew up, and I had to ask myself a question: what do I really want in this life? Because it's reaching the time where this is the peak of my life. I need to choose, or I need to just like give up this whole life and then just be a very cranky old person going to be. So yeah, so I tried. So at the time, I was trying to nudge into music. So I was working for music companies and all that. But then at the time, there was a economic crisis, so I couldn't find any jobs. And after I graduated, the only thing I could find was some music company. So I was promoting other artists and liaising and the admin for other artists when I first started. But when I was in that environment and I got dragged into a girl band, that was a producer girl band. So long story short, so that started me off making a little bit music with Mac. Once you give me like an inch, I'm gonna go for a mile, because when this is something that's naturally attractive to me, it's very easy for me to just kind of like go for it. But I didn't call myself an artist until, say, 5 years later, because I had to go through a lot of an internal process when my dreams was buried so deeply underground that I just to dig out that really, really old kind of like a dreams, and then to convert myself to believing, oh, maybe I do have something. It's very hard to believe. So it took a long time. And also, it's not like, oh, now I'm an artist, I'm going to do music. No, it takes you quite a few years to find out if you have it, what it takes. And then to change the old beliefs, plus trying to find out if I am an artist, I have something special. That took a number of years. And but I took that journey, and then that was the biggest miracle I've created for my life, because I went from deeply disbelief, and once I just give a sign, it was a permission slip where I can use this as a climbing hook to climbing back towards my dreams. And so that was and also, once I went into the right direction, it's like my body emotionally, spiritually, and everything was starting to kicking in. It's like, compared to my previous mediocre life of being very sleepy, like just I wasn't great with anything, wasn't happy. Like this one, it feels like wild horses couldn't hold me back. And I suddenly realized it doesn't matter the outcome, the joy that I get from creating music is everything that I need. So it's like, I'm gonna go with you. If it burns, if I die 20 years early, 30 years early, if I carry the baggage, like the pressure from a Chinese environment, everybody thought I was crazy, and I wasn't going to live the traditional life, and I carry all that guilt of not being a good daughter, getting married with someone, having children, marry well, and look after my parents and what they've given me, and for me to give back. I just put everything aside. I had to make a decision, because it's a double-edged sword. I put everything that I had on this feeling, because I trusted this feeling that this is the one for me. I'm gonna go with it. So I
Yeah,
just went with
that is
it.
that is so hard to do, and I think
Yeah.
we should really talk about that a little bit, because you've had such a difficult journey, and I mean, with your background and everything you've described, it was like even a step beyond what some artists might have to deal with to go out and be an artist. But for me personally, I also had that transformative moment when I said, you know what, I could go into doing, business or doing some typical traditional job, and that would be nice and secure and all of those things, right? But I do remember at some point when I said, you know what, I'm done even considering that. I'm going to be an artist because that's what I love. I don't care if it makes me, less financially successful or less stable in my life, because this is what I love doing. And I think that, when you start to get really serious about your music career, there's always going to be moments like that where you have to deal with, do I take the safe path that seems safer and reliable, or do I do my own thing? So I think that's really important that you brought that up, and you really described the whole basket of emotions that come with it. And it's not just the society, it's your family, it's your friends, right? And there's so many people and everybody has an opinion, right? And so that's a really important piece of your story, I think, and so important for other artists to realize that you do have to take that leap of faith sometimes. And also knowing your music, I feel like that's such a big theme in your music. So it's beautiful how you've woven all that together.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, thank you for, and also your story is very inspiring. The other day that I heard your story in this space, and how this makes the music so much deeper and more powerful. And I think pain is really important to make you realize how much pain can I take to pursue this thing, right? If I was born in an environment where there's no resistance, then it's almost like how much you love it is measured by how much pain and suffering you can take from this when things don't go well. For me, at the time, there was the visa situation, because I was going to get kicked out from the country, because the UK didn't like, they don't like foreigners coming in, overseas students. So when you graduate, it's supposed to go back. So 99% of my friends, everybody went back, and I had to stay. So during that time, my family had an economic crisis as well. So everything went down, and so they couldn't give me any money. It's quite the opposite, so I had to look after myself. And thinking of, because during the economic crisis, you can't find any job, and without the visa to stay. So what people are do have just by naturally, which is what people taken for granted, is the most important thing for me, because I had to stay here to be able to do what I want. At the time, I didn't even know I could make music. I have the talent to do it, but I wanted the possibility. Just give me a chance, right? If I go back, I know there's no chance for me, because I will be so restricted and limited to the war of this culture, because China is a very, very strong cultural, culturally very strong uh species, I would say. Civilization is a very, very different thinking within China. And every time I went back, I have like this feeling of like a sinking in water, like drowning in other people's thoughts, and it's just so strong. It's like this tight net that you can't breathe, and you have to think the way they think, and I never did. So I had to get out. So since I was like 3 or 5 years old, I just knew that I have to get out from here to be who I wanted to be, or to find out who I was going to be. So I grew up like a rebel. And then my instinct was just, I need to stay here alone so I can find out who I am. so so that's another thing that adds more pressure onto the whole thing. Yeah, that's where I started. And so that kind of like the rush of and then once I started on that path, and then the universal signs were always giving me that the first few years was much easier, just because I was very confirmed. I was confirmed by a lot of signs that I have the talent. I have something that's very special, and met kind of like the right people that propelled me on this journey like forward, because I was extremely insecure. It took me many, many years to actually realize I'm an artist, because of the background that I shared that I was deeply not believed, and then not like the whole family didn't understand. What do you have? Why are you doing this? Like, if you like to sing in karaoke, that's okay. You're a karaoke singer, but you are not like a real artist or whatever. So yes, for me to believe in myself, it took many, many years, and that's kind of like my journey in Web2. But going to giving the background of the pain and the resistance that I had to overcome, and then my self-limitation I had to break through to be free. And that gave me the background of like what other pain that I can't take, right? During the 10 years being Fifi Rong, and then there's a lot of hardship, like for maybe for people if life is too comfortable. But for me, it wasn't hard. The hard thing was or was before, and the hardest thing was going in Web2, going with management that wasn't right for me, that took me away from my true self, the direction and everything. And then that gave me the biggest lesson. And then that was the lesson that prior Web3, because that's important to find out like what is it that I really want, and how do I feel confidence in myself, and that I make the decision. So I think that was a angel in disguise that was sent to me to learn this necessary step on my journey towards freedom. And then now I'm here. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
journey.
I mean, it's almost like maybe in some ways the artist is kind of defined by that leap of faith moment. And, you see artists rise to fame or rise to success or, find their success. And it always looks like it's easier from the outside, but everyone has ups and downs, right? Like, no matter what. And I understand what you mean about that kind of you have that first run when like maybe you've been making music for a while or thinking about it for a while, but at some point a few things start going well and you're like, wow, this could actually work. And that gets you more serious about it. And then you kind of, get to that point where you go all in and maybe you have a good run, but then there's always a time when it's going to be, slowing down or something's not going perfectly. And I think that also is what defines the journey is how do you respond when things aren't going well, and how do you continue and find that next success or that next moment, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of maybe what you're getting at with like the long term. There's always these ups and downs, right?
Yeah, and those dips is really valuable, because when you're at a really, really down place, I mean, during the management, I went to a place where I lost my mojo, like I lost my passion for music. As in, like, what is the point of making music? I never went like even lower than that, but at the time I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't even make it, in the morning. I couldn't even go to the bathroom without already falling into pieces. So it got really, really bad. But there was like something that's behind all of this, still had a little bit hope. And that's why my new EP, like the Web3, the launch of my truly Web3 thing, is called Hopium. And I just want to say, like, in your darkest hour, there is like that little spark of hope. It's just like, this is not it. And I think this is really defined by the suffer and the resistance over the years that I had. It was like, I already went through all that, I'm not gonna give up now. So having those like as the foundation for life is important. Okay, I understand I'm depressed now, but this is not going to be forever. I can pull myself and, climbing out of this hole. So this hopium, like this hope is like a climbing hook. I can climb out of this hellhole. So yeah, so really, really important. And then that deepens your music, your art so much more. And I think, I like to, think that when our ego is happy, our spirit is not happy. And then our ego, like us in real life, is suffering, that the spirit is actually happy because you're growing as a soul. And that's kind of like, I see that as kind of a like life's purpose.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, there has to be that balance, right? There's growth. The growth has to be caused by something. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you've had your struggles, right? But you've also had your great moments, and I think it's important to mention that too. Before we get right into the Web3 journey and stuff like that, I'd love to just hear about some of your best moments before coming to Web3, because I know you've had some amazing things happen through your career and you've been doing music for a long time. And so I think it's important to understand that as well, because that's really your brand that you brought into Web3 and NFTs.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that one up. So I did solo releases, probably like a 2022 releases, and or every time is everything independently. And I collaborated with Tricky from Massive Attack, and Yellow, and then they're like this electronic legends that's like godfather of techno music, and then they're very big in the German speaking countries. I collaborated with them on 2 albums, and then did the show, the arena tour with them, like 8 different shows. There was like all like a 7,000 people, 5,000 people, and then that was like a really nice highlight, as in, you know, running around in stadium, kind of, not stadium, like a arena. Is like one of the things that, oh, this is how it looks like, you know, that sometimes you see on TV. And I collaborated with Skepta on the Konnichiwa, the title track of the, you know, the Mercury winning album, and UK #2 album at the time. That's 2016. I collaborated for probably over like 50 different producers and lots of other stuff. I mean, I'm a producer myself, but apparently my voice is, you know, is good for electronic music, because I don't have a lot of a lower range, and then that flows on top. So I think people like that. That's why I get a lot of people approach me to sing for them, and then that becomes like my thing, to collaborate with people, apart from, you know, aside of my solo stuff. And what else? China. I think prior to pandemic, I had a W Records, from W Hotel, and then they signed me for a kind of like a one-off deal. That's as the first Chinese artist for China. So I went to China on tour, and then stay. You know, like recorded from LA W Hotels suite. They are sweet, and I went take, you know, these 2 singles to China, and they really kind of like launched their album for them. And they are W record in their like a hotel, like Shanghai W Hotel, and also Xi'an W Hotel, and did like 3-4 China tour. And then there was like as big, sometimes as big as like 40,000 people in the audience, and came back to, and then that is a proud moment, because my parents thought I was joking when I thought I was gonna make music. But then every time I went to China, I take my team, my band, and my manager, that they put us in 5-star hotel, fly us over. My mom was like, "Yeah, that's my daughter," you know. Okay, she's being real, she's serious now. So yeah, so that is really super important, because I'm very Chinese cultured in that way, that I wanted to make my parents proud. So yeah, so that's definitely a highlight. I'm sure I've done a lot of other stuff, like crowdfunding, um, and my VIP, because, you know, I can't do anything without my loyal supporters. And then that is a super important point, to bring them into Web3, because Web3 is about this deep connection with your collectors. And I already kind of like I'm prepped for almost 80%. The only thing that's different is there's a secondary market, and then there is slightly, you know, slightly different things. But I was pretty ready, having all these loyal supporters behind me, during all for all those years doing it independently, running this independent business, coming over. So this is like you know, the perfect setup for me, Web3.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Wow, that's so great to hear the story come full circle, where it's like after you did start taking your career seriously and yourself seriously, and then you know, it didn't happen overnight, but you worked hard and you made some things happen. And then ultimately, in the end of the day, everything is okay, right? With the relationships and with the, friends or family and whatever, right? I mean, that's just how it goes, I think. And because I feel like the same thing happened on my end, where at some point everyone's just like, okay, well, this, I guess it's what he does now, and it's fine because, okay, it's become real. But there's always that hard part in the beginning, but that's so awesome to hear a bit about all of that and sort of how that's what you're bringing into the Web3 space, right? So you've put in the time and energy, and I think that's helped you to be successful coming to Web3. And it's really interesting. You're someone who's done a lot of like independent sales and different types of crowdfunding and products. So I think that could probably be a good segue into your Web3 journey, is maybe talk about a little bit of what you've done with that. Because even before blockchain and Web3, you were really innovating on, I would say, music and artist financing, right?
Yeah, I did 6, 7 or 8 crowdfunding campaigns. I can't even remember over the years, because in Web2, say independent career, there's usually several pillars. You have your subscription, like a VIP club, like a Patreon type of thing, and then you have the other lane, which is crowdfunding for a project. It could be for a tour, could be for an album, double album, an EP, or even a single. So I have the experience, like the experience of that is really valuable, because thinking of what would my fans, my supporters want. So it's like everything that can be done, that I've done. Not everything, obviously, not like selling my bath water, like I've heard some people do that, but that's not me. I'm talking about, say, like the costume that have been in a music video, or that I can sell. That, for example, is a very meaningful item, that is one of being on the big stage. It's like a museum worthy kind of stuff. And so there, I think I get trained in that kind of a way. And coming into Web3, being innovative, is because in Web2, that's what we had to do. You think you sit there all day, because you don't get paid from the streaming if you don't get signed. Because people, I mean, I didn't get signed because, first, I want my freedom. Second is, mainstream artists and mainstream music industry think that I'm too obscure, and a very underground label thought I was too mainstream, I was too pop for them. So I was like kind of like in no man's land. But that really helped me to figure out this like a unique lane that I want to go. And I have always held my integrity to do the music that I wanted to do. So now transition to Web3. I mean, the first thing I just came here to learn, because like my entrepreneur real radar was the pointing ding 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 ding. It's pointing over here. I'm definitely coming here. So I didn't know what I was going to do. But I came in and I was talking to you, and I said, okay, so I have this crowdfunding that's coming. How do I tie this in with with NFT? So we tried so many things. You were the first person, Dale, to tell me, oh, you could do this, do that. But then it's kind of trial and error. The stuff like that is not doable, then I'll be like, okay, that is not doable. And NiftySax, that was when when we just explored so many different paths on how do I do the vinyl, and I shared my idea. And we happen to really like designing and going very deep in thinking, how do you do that? It's very complicated. So by the very last hour, almost like 24 hours, I still didn't figure out how am I gonna do that. But later on, when it kind of like all went transparent, so we went through many iterations, and in the end, I just give away NFTs for people to mint plus gas, or for people who in my fans who are just not willing to open a MetaMask, for example. I would just give them a free airdrop. Like that would be easier. At the time, the gas fee could go up to $200, so it was really scary. So only the willing ones were they were willing to pay for the gas. So for different tiers of the crowdfunding, like a bundle, I will give them different rarities of NFTs. So that was the first step of tying them together. So the whole point is that you can do anything as long as it makes sense in NFT. So the creativity from like how do we make make a music video work on a shoestring budget is the type of creativity you use in Web3. What do I have right now? What can I make sense of the material that I have near me? And very soon that after that I could say build a little Web3 funnel. I can tie in NFT with my other goodies, because people talk about utility all the time. I'm like, that's not new. That's like what I've been doing for 10 years, like it's like every trick in the book and every kind of like different things from USBs to a cap of Fifi Rong, this is so wrong. And I even have like this selfie book of like people like my selfies, but then people like to play with my with my name. Wrong, this is so wrong. And there's lots of things people like to play with, and they're making memes of my name. So they like kind of give me the quotes, and then I take the selfie and I print them into a book and I sign it for them. This kind of things is like there's no limit to what you can create as utilities, and with the experience that I already have with the vinyls and test pressings and all that kind of stuff, it just it's like I'm ready for this.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I think it was really cool what you did with the crowdfunding, and basically how you made it easy for someone from Web2 to get involved without scaring them away from the NFT stuff, right? Because onboarding people to this space is tough, especially when they have to learn about a crypto wallet and they have to learn how to get crypto and pay in crypto, and all that stuff is tough. And people typically think that if your collectors won't do that, there's no way to, facilitate the NFT sale. But that's kind of what we had talked about from the beginning. It's like, look, you can just do a crowdfund like normal and allow people to buy in to the crowdfund, and then you can deliver the NFT on your own time, right? And there's ways you can combine these two things. Like you could do an NFT sale that was also available through the crowdfund site, and that way it could be, available to Web2 and Web3. And you've pioneered that forward a little bit. So it was really interesting to see you come in with that strategy. And I guess the question is like, going forward, do you see yourself using the crowdfunding sites in the future, or more focusing on Web3? Or do you still want to tie them together? Like, what are your thoughts? How did it go?
It all depends on where I am, because the idea a lot of people say is 1,000 true fans, but over here is 1,000 true collectors. So once you have the collectors, and if it makes makes more sense, and if it's the place that I prefer, then I see no reason why I don't do a crowdfunding over here if it comes to that point. But what's more interesting is doing your own collection on your own smart contract, say with Nifty Music. Especially NiftySax is one of the best, if not if not the but what do I know, because there are just plenty talented people out there. But he's a really, really great strategist, and we happen to really love strategizing something that's completely new, because we put the creativity into that. And within the NFT structure, you can do so much. Just like a design, the gamification, and using all those different tools and then thinking, projecting forwards for the secondary. Like yourself, I mean, just like following Dyl, following your journey is incredible. Seeing how you evolve in this space. So for me, I think, how do you tie them together? There's now, it's like this space is happening so fast. I could be building on the idea I already have, but say I wouldn't do a crowdfunding campaign in, let's just say 1 year's time, or say 8 months time, let's just say that. But in between, I already have like my next thing is the Web3 focus, the 7 EP drop, and the first one is called Hopium, out of the 7, and then that sparks off like a spin off as a harmony thing. So me and NiftySax, like, we collaborated on this harmony, and then that is a very innovative release structure, and I believe that is the first we did as well. So that leads to my Web3, like the 7 EP jobs, and he's got his synergy, like going to our bigger collections. So to use that to build our my true 1000 collectors, as you say. The point I'm getting at is, I might not need to do a crowdfunding just yet. So by the time I do it, it would be a different, brand new, whole new world of the situation. Then we have to assess the situation. So
yeah,
so
totally.
it just, there's so much freedom. There's so many things you can do in this space. It just it's like there's like 10 ideas flying around, but you can only execute on one.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like the first time you kind of did the Web2 first approach and then delivered NFTs after. And I'm excited for your upcoming drop. Maybe you just focus on Web3. But I also think of the Web2 as just the sales channel again, where you could have your Web3 focus drop and that could be the focus. But if you have, think of them like fans or collectors who typically support you on crowdfunding. Well, perhaps you could offer the NFTs on there and say, hey, this is a Web3 focused drop, but you can pay with cash on a crowdfunding site or pay with your credit card. Yes. So something interesting to think about. I don't know, maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. Maybe you want to save up your fans for the next drop that's crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. But that's just something that comes to mind.
I would say the first thing is more likely, because I don't want to leave anybody behind, and I do want to onboard them, but then without any force. So I know what they find valuable. Super important. What they find valuable, I will make it for them. And also with VIP Club, I have like about 40 people, and to bring them into Web3 is quite easy. To give them certain token to unlock, so I can channel them into the same stream, so I don't have to time myself out so much. And with the new thing, I mean, I'll make it as easy as possible for them to make the kind of payment. But by that, I'm only talking about 100 something people, because my audience, it could be say 50,000, 100,000, and in China there's even more. But the true fans are the people who buy your stuff, support you from day one, from the first release till wherever you go for life. That's the kind of people I'm saying, you're coming with me, I'm not gonna leave you behind. So for other people, then the Web2 release will be out there, and when they're ready, they're probably coming in. So I mean, just as a kind of like suggestion, or from my experience over here in Web3, would be, there are huge crowd of people within crypto and within PFP, I mean the art world, in NFT already. So the audiences are very different. So there's a lot of like a kind of like a rebuilding the collector base, and going like in this climate, it's very good to have something, a combination, a mixture of Web2 and Web3, as a mixture of your, say, if Web3 is down for some reason, then you have the Web2 to support, and then vice versa. So just like a play with that balance and mixture. And Yeah, I lost my first point, but yeah, I think you get the idea.
Yeah, no, awesome. I mean, you definitely have to figure out the right way to keep your community involved. And I love the idea of 1,000 true fans. Like, it's a great concept, right? You can monetize 1,000 true fans, and that's great. Maybe you can make all you need from 1,000 true fans. But I also think it's kind of like a guideline, right? Like Web3 allows me to have 1,000 true fans or 10,000 true fans. And so for me, it's like I actually have about 1,000 collectors now, maybe a little more, maybe like 1,200. And so that's awesome. And it's actually pretty manageable for me now. And so now I'm like, okay, how do we get to 2,000? How do we get to 5,000? How do we get to 10,000? Because we can now track this on the blockchain and we can build scalable products for these communities, you know, whether it's 1,000 people or 10,000. And so I love the idea of getting your 1,000 true fans. You know, but once you find your 1,000 true fans, maybe you can find 1,000 more, or maybe you do figure out how to kind of isolate the, you know, growth to those 1,000. But it's something to think about for sure. And I feel you. Like it's a great goal to set out is like 1,000 true fans, right?
First,
But
yeah.
part of the thing is I have NFTs that are only $5. So if someone spends $5, are they a true fan? I mean, they could be. They're probably not. They're not as invested financially as someone who
It's the
spent more.
start. Yeah, it's the start of something, because consumer behavior is that once they invest in a little bit of something, the chances are if you nurture them in the right way, they will keep buying and support more and more, because they get to know you more and more. Just like after the first cards that I got from you, and I got a whole bunch, because our friendship deepens and deepens, so there's no end to it. And in this climate, I think it's really important to look at the people who are really into wanting to come into Web3, and they're on the fence because it was too expensive. But now the selling point is really, now is you have 80% discount, and this is the right time to come in. There's no way you can lose if you believe in the technology, and this is the future. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's great, Fifi. You have an incredible story, and it's awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to share on this podcast we didn't get to? Anything you want to talk about? Some new stuff coming up? Maybe a little
yeah,
hint
I
about the shop?
awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely just wrap up, because I have another space to host. So I'll go in 2 minutes. So right now is my 10 years anniversary as Fifi Rong, like literally this month. So what's about to come out in about 1 week and a half time is called Forget EP. And this is my most loved song by the fans. But it was kind of leaked in Russia as a part of the Tricky's bigger EP, but it never got released. So now I put together all the remixes, including myself, and then this original song. We got 4 music videos, and so I'm gonna do an exclusive job, like on our smart contract ourselves, like with the Nifty Music. So only 7 editions each, and then that's 0.07. So it's like a $70, something like that, $60 even. You know, it's really, and also with the utility, you kind of like get one and you get 3 NFTs for free. So it's a super bargain. Again, because the edition number is so small, and I get to choose who who get to have, who get to, you know, my priority list again, like a harmony. So I definitely come to you first, Dyl, because of our, you know, our friendship and everything. So that's what's gonna come first, this EP, and then that leads up to my bigger collection called Hopium, and that's a much bigger one. So it's just that would be in about 2 months' time, to less than 2 months' time, Hopium, and then that's gonna be a really cool. It's a 3D art of me, but each individual art is different. All different poses, and there's 4 songs on the EP. So the EP is called Hopium, and then there's gonna be Hope in East, West, and North and South, basically that kind of thing. So yeah, before that is my celebration of the anniversary. Just as I also said, to celebrate that, to spark off was the V2 on Min songs. I dropped other other side. So it's a remake of my song that I wrote 10 years ago, but I never released it. So I just made it and re-recorded it. That's on Min Song V2. That's my that's the first thing I do for this 10-year anniversary. And so in a week or something time, I'm gonna just like I reach out to my OGs and then see who wants to get in line for this very special and also cheap, very rare forget remix NFTs, and also original would be one of one at the end. But it's gonna be like a 4-week releases. Each week I'm gonna release 7 tokens for one song, and then there's 3 other songs will be a blind mint at the end of it. So that will be a free airdrop. So if you already have like a token, you bought that 0.07, and then you get a blind mint, so it's free plus gas. So that one is like a slight gamification, so you don't know which remix you're gonna get. So that's I'm very excited for that. I'm just preparing for all the artwork and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, Fifi. Excited for that drop. Happy to be a collector of Harmony and a collector of the first album as well, playing all of your stuff on Music NFT Radio constantly. I mean, it's awesome, Fifi. You've been a huge supporter of the community, and thank you for that. Really happy to have you here. Definitely want to bring you back, and we'll talk about some other stuff too. I want to have time for conversations. I want to have topics that we can cover. I mean, these are just supposed to be fun and posting them whenever. I actually have 5 more interviews today. I don't know how that's going to go down or even how that ended up happening with my schedule, but this was awesome. I already made a dope little thumbnail, and I'll have it out for you ASAP. I appreciate you coming on, Fifi. This is great.
Thank you so much, and I'll speak to you later. Enjoy, and the 5 interviews. Let's go.
Let's go. And everyone, make sure to follow Fifi. Go check out her music. It's incredible. There's a Funeral in My Heart for Every Man I Loved. It's a dope album. We have a bunch of the songs on the Music NFT Radio playlist, as well as some of her older stuff. We'll be adding the new stuff too. So make sure you go support Fifi. She's an incredibly talented artist. She has so much music. And you can listen to that music 24/7 any time of day on Music NFT Radio or over on our playlists. So thanks for supporting the show, everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube. Go check it out, Music NFT Radio on YouTube. We'll be back. We got a lot more coming. Let's get back into the playlist. Fifi, you're awesome, and we love your music. Let's go.
Whatever man I loved, 当年深爱过的人，都是funeral in my heart，是一个决裂、孤独的意识。Whatever